I welcome members to the fourth meeting in 2014 of the Delegated Powers and Law Reform Committee, and as always ask members to switch off mobile phones. Agenda item 1 is a decision on taking business in private. It's proposed that the committee takes items 7 and 8 in private. Item 7 is consideration of the committee's draft report on the draft Agricultural Holdings Scotland Act 2003 Remedial Order 2014. And item 8 is consideration of a paper by the clerk in relation to the Standards, Procedures and Public Appointments Committee's inquiry into the procedures for considering legislation. Does the committee agree to take items 7 and 8 in private, please?
Agreed.
Thank you. Agenda item 2 is instruments subject to affirmative procedure. No points have been raised by our legal advisors on the Local Government Finance Scotland Order 2014 draft. Is the committee content with this instrument, please? Thank you. Agenda item 3, instruments subject to negative procedure. No points have been raised by our legal advisors on the infant formula and follow-on formula Scotland Amendment Regulations 2014, SSI 2014-12, nor on the discontinuance of Aberdeen and Peterhead Prisons, Scotland Order 2014, SSI 2014-13. Is the committee content with those instruments, please? Thank you. Agenda item 4 is the Budget Scotland number 3 bill. The bill confers one delegated power set out in Section 7 of the bill, which makes provision for budget revision orders. This power is subject to affirmative procedure. Does the committee agree to report to the Parliament that it is satisfied with the exercise of the power in Section 7 and that the affirmative procedure is acceptable? Thank you. Agenda item 5 is the Marriage and Civil Partnerships Scotland Bill. This item of business is consideration of the delegated powers provisions in this bill after stage 2. Members will have noted that the Scottish Government has provided a supplementary delegated powers memorandum and will have seen the briefing paper. Stage 3 consideration of the bill is due to take place on Tuesday the 4th of February. The deadline for lodging amendments is 4:30 this Wednesday the 29th of January. The committee may therefore wish to agree its conclusions today. Paragraph 6 of Schedule 2 of the bill inserts Section 5D into the Gender Recognition Act 2004, hereinafter referred to as the 2004 Act. Section 5D confers power on Scottish ministers to introduce a more streamlined process for civil partners to change their civil partnership to a marriage and obtain the full gender recognition certificate. In its Stage 1 report, the committee recommended that provision should be made on the face of the bill, but if this was not possible, then orders made under this power should be laid in draft before the Parliament for consultation and then subject to affirmative procedure. Amendments made at Stage 2 provide for consultation on a draft order, but do not require the order to be laid before the Parliament at that stage. They are then subject to the affirmative procedure. This falls short of the committee's recommendation and would not require the government to have regard to or respond to any responses to the consultation before commencing the affirmative procedure. Similar issues arise in relation to a new power inserted by paragraph 11C of Schedule 2. This inserts a new section 3C5B2 into the 2004 Act. The power allows the Scottish ministers to prescribe which treatments for gender dysphoria would qualify certain transgender persons to obtain a change of gender recognition certificate. Again, the exercise of this power involves consultation on a draft order before the affirmative procedure, but does not engage the Parliament at that stage or require the government to have regard to the consultation responses. The committee may consider that placing these additional requirements on the face of the bill would be beneficial, as it would give the Parliament the opportunity to scrutinise the government's proposals and to influence the draft affirmative order that is subsequently laid before Parliament. Do members have any comments to make, please? Stuart.
Thank you, Convener. The committee has previously made observations on the process to be adopted for these. I understand that the government has not made any comment on our previous observations, nor responded by seeking to make any change. On that basis, Convener, I think we should continue to adhere to what we previously said and draw that to the attention of Parliament in those terms.
Any other thoughts, comments? Margaret?
Can I just check exactly where we are on this, because I've lost the page just now?
Well, in the context of our blue blue briefing paper, which I now, forgive me, have to find.
That's okay.
I think we'll be
Yeah,
on
that's
pages
fine.
11 and 13, Ms. Mark, or 9 and 13.
No, that's fine. It's okay.
I think the paragraphs that we're being asked to respond to are 55 and 77. John.
Okay.
On you go, Margaret.
No, on you go, John. It's okay.
Thank you, Convener. I would just support what Stuart Stevenson has said, that we have taken a view on this as a committee before, and we would, I think, we should invite the government to justify, at the very least, their position for not agreeing to what we have suggested in good faith, because what we are seeking is only a further layer of scrutiny, and I think in matters as important as these, that's not unreasonable. We also have the examples of the Agricultural Holdings Act, which has led to huge amounts of grief, shall we say, put it no other way, and we wouldn't want to leave this piece of legislation open to challenge. And if this process that we're suggesting should be put in place helped avoid that at some later date, then I think that would be a sensible way of proceeding, and therefore I support what Stuart said.
Thank you, Margaret.
As convener of the Equal Opportunities Committee, we actually took evidence from the Minister on the proposals for how the regulation would actually be made in this issue, and we were actually content with the proposal from the Scottish Government. So I really think it's important that I actually place this on the record.
Thank you. Stuart.
Just to be quite clear, my substantial concern is simply that the government has not provided a response to underpin the way it's proposing to proceed. The government has the opportunity to correct that omission during the course of the Stage 3 proceedings, or at an earlier point, or to respond by making amendments. I don't point at any particular response.
Right, thank you. Are there any other comments on that basis? Because I've heard different views, I'd really like the committee's view on how we then want to proceed. Richard.
Well, given I think that Stuart's brought us to a good conclusion on this, I mean, it's perfectly right as a committee. We've pursued the issue of how this regulation was made and the issues of affirmative procedure, but I think it's perfectly right for us as a committee to seek a response without coming to a conclusion which would potentially contradict the position obviously Margaret's reached in terms of her committee. So I think it's right to press the case without binding ourselves to any specific conclusion when it actually comes to the final decisions at debate and the Stage 3 debate.
Okay, so either we need to produce a wee report or I need to write a letter. We'll take
Yes.
the appropriate process for indicating to the government that we feel we'd like to know why it's drawn the conclusion it has, rather than really merely to note what it has left on the face of the bill.
Agreed.
Yes. Thank you very much for that. Okay. Yes, okay, thank you. It has, of course, been suggested that the committee may wish to be content with all the other provisions, which we've not just discussed in the bill, which have been amended at Stage 2 to insert or substantially alter provisions conferring powers to make subordinate legislation. Is the committee content with those, please? Consent. Thank you. Agenda item 6 is the Procurement Reform Scotland Bill. This item of business is consideration of the Scottish Government's response to the committee's Stage 1 report on the Procurement Reform Scotland Bill. Members have seen the briefing paper and the response from the Scottish Government. Do members have any comments, please? Or are we content to note the response and, if necessary, reconsider the bill after Stage 2?
Content.
Yes, I think we are. Thank you. At that point, I think I can move the meeting into private for agenda item 7.